So I would love to welcome you all to night 3 BooB CamP tonight. Oh, everyone's jumping in now. See, Neil, Relly and Donna all jumping in too. And ladies, in BooB CamP, I would love you to finally meet. I've been talking to you about Tia Brennan does this, Tia Brennan does that, and my bestie Tia, and we teach LAW together, and Tia's in body wisdom, and if I need help with anything, go to my naturopath Tia. Well, here she is, top row, front and center, joining us live in BooB CamP. And because we are talking everything about vaginas, nobody in Australia can have a conversation about vaginas without Moira. Hey, it is just Moira, she's doing her PhD on vaginal health at the moment, and she is like, but Moira,
top of the field.
You would win Hangman, like the words that you know, right? All of the words that you know, the big spelling words, all to do with vagina health and all this stuff. You would be the Hangman champion, right? Spelling some of the words. So BooB CamP, ladies, you are going to get down and intimate tonight with us. With us three, we are going to. We've got three things that we want out of tonight. The first thing is vaginas are awesome.
All vaginas are awesome.
Yes, vaginas are awesome. The second thing is you are going to have a place, a safe place to ask questions and always seek help. And the third thing is that intimate health is not embarrassing. It can be spoken about in all channels and anywhere, okay? So they're the 3 things that we want to get out tonight. So we've still got lots of ladies jumping on here, girls, saying hello. Rosina has written, hello to you, Brennan. Yes. Oh, we have an echo. That's Tia.
I'll mute me for a little while.
Okay. So is that better, Belinda? Let us know that we've put Tia on mute, and we know that we can't keep her muted for too long because, you know, Tia and Shiloh have owned Araya Health for 13 years, and they're both the most amazing naturopaths. I remember going up to Townsville a couple of years ago, and we had dinner, and like, I think it was the first time that I actually met Shiloh, and both of you were all like vaginas and sex and anal sex and normal sex and all of this other, like all of the, like, this, just being in a conversation with you two, I was like, holy moly, like I thought I knew shit, but no. Like,
knowing your body is really important. Being comfortable with yourself, knowing what feels good, what's healthy, what's not. I think it's a really good discussion to have, and it's always so taboo, and I really don't understand why it is.
Yes. So Tia, let's kick it off with you. When somebody comes to see you about women's health or about having a naturopath appointment, you ask these questions, don't you? So what questions do you
Straight
ask?
up. So I'll always ask them a couple questions. One is, what's your vagina like? And most people are quite taken back by this question. They're used to answering, you know, diet and lifestyle, but very few people and practitioners will ask them, what's their vagina like? Is sex painful? Does it feel good? How does it feel all the time? Are you ever concerned about discharge, smell, any of those sort of things? I've even asked, what does it taste like? Because all of these things are so important, and it often takes people back. But I would have to say at least 50% of my clientele would then go, well, actually, sex has always been painful, or actually it hurts when I walk, or actually I really smell this particular way, and no one's ever told me that it was a problem, and I've always felt that it wasn't quite right. So we created V for Me, and we were really lucky to have Moira, the expert in this field, on our education panel, really. So she's brilliant, and she's helping us to create a safe place for vaginas. So we really wanted to create V for Me out of a desire to help vaginas that are around Australia to reach their full potential.
Yeah, so Moira, you jump in now too, because like your clinic is booked out until March, right? This is how important and needed your services are. So for Tia, can you pop yourself on mute, babe?
Yes.
So yeah, Moira, it shows you how needed this is. So teaming up with Tia and, you know, coming together and doing V for Me, when we were just speaking about it, then I could see how important it is for you to reach a large amount of people.
Oh gosh, yes. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it, that I'm one person, and part of my goal in what I do as a practitioner is to educate other practitioners so that we have more people helping more people. Because this is, once I started to work only in this area, I realized that there was just a wave of people that were fed up or weren't getting the support that they needed, and it's quite overwhelming to, you know, have a practice that is that busy in just one area. And it's really sad sometimes to see, you know, what people have gone through or what they're experiencing or what they're not talking about as well, because it is, you know, one of those stigmatized areas. And it doesn't have to be. Like, if you can't talk about it, then you're not necessarily going to get the support, because people don't know what's going on unless you're able to vocalize it or talk about it. So I, like Tia, part of my mission is, you know, making or helping people to have those conversations and be aware, you know, that they can bring that up to their health practitioners, or that they can, you know, find health practitioners that are willing to have those conversations and ask those really specific questions so that they can open it up for you. Because, you know, there's some really startling statistics of, you know, people who don't bring it up because they think that their health practitioner should, and then the opposite side of that is that health practitioners are still people who feel like that they're intruding to ask those sorts of really personal questions. So as Tia said, that's part of what V for Me will be, is, you know, not only bringing really important products to the market that can help in this area, but also connecting people to other practitioners and people that can support them in that healing journey as well.
Yeah, and that's what I love about us as naturopaths, because we do know each other's niche, and we're not going to try to help somebody when we don't know, and it's not our, if like, I'm going to definitely pass you know, clients on to you, to Nick Top for anxiety, to Tia, like we all work together because we want the best advice. We're not just going to stumble and go, oh, maybe. A lot of us will research into it and learn ourselves and then pass the information on. But yes, but you being you know, booked out until March, how important creating this group. So part of this, ladies, if you want to start asking any questions, please pop that in. We're on here for 45 minutes. So if you have any questions at all, so Lee has just written, so thankful to be listening to this. Ignorance helps nobody. Hoping to learn heaps tonight. Okay, so let's run through some things. So what's the most common reason that people come to see you, Moira? Like, is there a top couple of things?
For me, it's probably something we call recurrent thrush or recurrent vulvovaginal candidiasis, which is people who don't just have one bout of thrush, they experience it pretty much every month, or it doesn't go away at all. And that's despite them using pharmaceutical medications, which might give them relief, only to then come around again in the next part of the month or the next part of their cycle, and they get the same symptoms again. So it's quite a complex issue when you get down to it, and that's the area I'm doing my research in as well. So I'm obviously attracting a lot of people in that because I spend a lot of time thinking about that. But it's sort of clinically, it's between that and recurrent BV is another presentation I see a lot of, and then probably followed closely by you know, anything that's associated with what I call the menopausal vagina, or the issues that we see when hormones start to drop away, which is a really big driver in vaginal health, is estrogen and the role it plays in supporting the beneficial microbes that inhabit that space. And so once estrogen starts to decline, and that can happen very many years before menstruation actually stops, we start to see increases in urinary tract infections or discomfort, painful intercourse, and it's not just dryness. It can be really quite extreme, interfering with exercise or walking or sitting or riding a bike, and so that's another thing that I see a lot of as well. And that's probably, menopause is a really important thing. Menopause matters, but it's very much overlooked, I think, in all areas of health as well. So for us, one of our first things that we're bringing to help people is actually a product that's very useful in menopause and the menopausal vagina, which is going to be a fennel oil.
Yes, the fennel oil. Yeah, Tia's been telling me about that. She's so excited about the fennel oil. Yes. So when estrogen starts to decline, so are there tests and things that women need to do first, or can they just go, okay, I'm ticking the box with this and this and this and this, so it's indicating that, yeah, I might need some, some help, or do they have to go and get tests done?
It's a bit of a combination. It depends on what sort of symptoms they're having and how extreme they might be. I think there's some important things that we can, look for at home when, being in touch with what our symptoms might be and what smell is. And, if there's anything super concerning, then, certainly, go and visit somebody and have a swab. But you can also do things like home test pH or vaginal pH, which gives us a really great indication of where bacterial colonies might be or what might be going on. So those sort of things you can do yourself. And then, there's no harm in trying some, if they're safe and useful, that trying those sort of things and seeing what sort of relief you get. And if you are at a stage of life where you think your hormones might be starting to do some aberrant things, or your menstrual cycle might be going a little bit out of whack, then those sort of things come together. And, there's always support, I think, to be had in those circumstances.
One of the first products that will be released in the next 2 weeks is a at-home vaginal pH kit.
Okay, tell us about that.
It's exactly what it is. It'll be clear instructions on something that they can do at home, and it will give them a bit of a guide as to where their next step could be. Okay. So something that they can do in the safety of their own home, cost-effective, simple, easy, and really straightforward.
So what should vaginal discharge look like or feel like, or like the run through the month? Like, what's the changes that is a normal thing?
So again, I mean, that's individualized to a certain degree, but there are some things that we look for. So in people that have a menstrual cycle and maybe ovulating, then a vaginal discharge or a cervical discharge changes over the course of a month. And so initially after menstruation, it might be a little bit pasty or tacky. And then as you move towards ovulation or mid-cycle, it can get, everyone does this movement. I think that's the universal movement for ovulation. So it becomes stringier and more egg white, raw egg white-like. It can also be a bit gushier at that time of month as well. Some people experience ovulation as being a little gush of fluid, and that's completely normal also. And it also, around ovulation, pH can shift above range slightly, and that's completely normal as well, as long as it comes back down into range. And then after ovulation, we sort of move back into milkier and then back into tackier again, and then menstruation can happen. So it is a fluctuation, and different people have different amounts of discharge, and there's lots of variations in what that might look like in terms of variations of color. So slightly creamy to white is quite normal, but it's when we start seeing things that are abnormal for us is when we start to flag them as maybe needing some something, you know, addressing. So odor might change, or volume might change, or consistency is different, or color is different, then those sort of things should be flags for us to sort of check in, see what might have disturbed it. If something's gone on, like having intercourse, you know, or oral sex, or a new partner, or you've had a bath, or you've done something that might have disturbed that balance of microbes in the vagina as well. Or if your hormones have, you know, if your menstrual cycle has been a bit irregular that month, or it disappeared, or it came really early, then those sort of things are things to focus in on as well.
Okay, so women who wash themselves with nice smelly perfumes or whatever, so it smells nice, and
a vagina should smell good normally. The vagina is self-cleaning. It does not require any perfumes to be put on it. If it does, then that's actually a sign that there could be something else going on. Not only that, things like baby oil, petroleum jelly, a lot of these over-the-counter and easily accessible femme fresh sort of products actually do damage to our vaginal microbiome. So it actually perpetuates the problem.
Okay.
Vaginas smell great. When a healthy vagina smells great, there is nothing wrong with it.
Yes. Okay. So all the different washes and things.
You need to be really careful about the products that you're putting on your intimate areas, from the lubricants you use to, you know, even fragranced panty liners to the personal sprays and those things. You need to be really, really careful. There's a very small amount of things that are safe to put in your intimate area.
So tampons versus pads, right?
It depends how they're bleached. It depends how they're actually made. There's lots of things that need to be taken into consideration.
So the organicer, the better.
Yes. Yeah. And I think there are so many different ways to manage your menstrual hygiene these days as well. I mean, we have period underwear, and you know, you can free bleed, or you can use a sponge, or like a cup, disc. You know, there's lots of different things, and it is up to how your body responds to it as well. So those sort of things. Oh.
See?
So those sort of things, you know, all of those are fantastic options if your body isn't flaring or you're not getting symptoms from them. And if you have something that is a reusable menstrual hygiene product, like a cup or a disc or period underwear, you also need to make sure that you're washing and sterilizing those appropriately as well. So one of the things that you know, I talk to people a lot about is things like menstrual cups, which are fantastic, but you really need to have 2 on rotation, or you need to be sterilizing them quite frequently, and lots of people won't do that. They'll use them at the beginning or the end of them, or sterilize them at the beginning and the end, and then change them only once every 12 hours. But that's a little bit risky when you have a tendency to infection or imbalance. That can be problematic,
especially when you drop it all over the floor. Like, that's no fun.
No.
That's no fun. So when you say sterilize, what with, Moira?
I mean, there's a few different options depending on where you are and what you can do. And, you know, so certainly public toilets are very different to when you're at home. Steam sterilization, or quick boils, or putting them in a cup in the microwave, they're all nice techniques, like a boil method. I've had people that have used baby bottle sterilizers. Not at the same time, obviously, those sort of things. And then you can also do apple cider vinegar washes, or you can use gentle foaming washes, as long as you're then again rinsing. But if you have 2, you can then bring them in and out and let them settle essentially. But yeah, those sort of things, and changing them more frequently than perhaps you think you need to as well.
Okay, a couple of questions that we've got so far. Leah's asked about fibroids, low iron help.
Yes, so in the context of vaginal health, or just in the context of having fibroids? Because I guess fibroids can cause a lot more bleeding, and there are different interventions that you can generally, I think, with fibroids, you know, diet and all those beautiful things that help estrogen clear, and making sure you're pooing properly are really important. But if it's more complex and there's a lot of flooding, bleeding, then that would be something I would connect you to a health practitioner for, because there's lots of interventions that you can utilize there. On a vaginal health level, more bleeding can actually disturb your microbiome a little bit, so sometimes there's an increased tendency for things like BV with excessive bleeding, but certainly iron deficiency is something that comes up as well, because you're losing more blood. So sometimes in perimenopause, fibroids can become a little bit more problematic as they're stimulated by hormones a little bit more, so we see more of this flooding, bleeding, and more frequent periods because of that. So that's definitely something as a practitioner, you need to bring some support towards as well.
Okay, thank you. Does fennel oil help estrogen levels go up, or is it for the dryness and discomfort?
I'll just keep answering questions too, which is a really great question. So the fennel oil is applied topically and internally to the vaginal tissues. And the research on fennel oil showed that, it doesn't affect your all over estrogen level. So it's not going to magically bring things up and out. But what it does do is improve some really important aspects of vaginal health, which we find are problematic in perimenopause and menopause. So it improves the cell and tissue quality inside the vagina, which means it's less likely to tear or to have issues with intercourse. They found that it also helped regulate the pH back into range, which is a sign of a healthy microbiome. So when we see perimenopause, we often see the pH start to creep up above 4.5, which means it's losing its lactobacillus dominance. So fennel oil also has been shown to improve pH. So it's got these really important things that it can support, but it also improves comfort and can be used as a lubricant as well for people, because it's lovely and moisturizing. So as long as you're not using a barrier method like a condom for intercourse, it's compatible with sex as well.
And it smells nice.
And it's Australian made and grown.
Yes. Is it okay to use Vagisil for pH balance?
Gosh, it's not something that if you've got a pH balance issue, then you need to get to the core of why. The why is really important, because sometimes using things that are going to just shift pH means that you're always going to be using something that's going to be shifting pH, because you're not dealing with the reason underneath. So, I would say it's not my choice of product for pH regulation, but if you need to use it in the short term to bring things back quickly, but if it keeps happening, I would definitely recommend finding other reasons why and addressing those instead.
The research is that so many people think they actually have vaginal thrush, and it's not. So it's one of the problems when you're just going, oh, look, I'm itchy down there, I'll just use a product like Vagisil, and that it might work for a short period of time, but it quite commonly isn't just vaginal thrush. So it could be, say, most of the time they think these things work on your Candida albicans, but what if it's Galbrata? What if it's bacterial vaginosis? What if you have a mix of albicans as well as strep and staph and all of these other bacterial vaginosis? So it really minimizes when people think, I've got an itchy vagina, I have thrush, I need to use something like Vagisil. They're really limiting what their treatment options should be, and they're assuming what the problem is, and it quite often is not.
Okay, so what are the causes for having this disruption? So Moira quickly went over change of partner, too much washing, I think.
Diet, lifestyle, sexual orientations, depending on how you're doing things. Sometimes it can be as simple as you're not cleaning your sex toys properly. Antibiotic use, stress. We know that the gut microbiome changes rapidly after a really stressful situation. So pretty much modern living can do too much sugar, wiping the wrong way.
It's an indication saying that something isn't right. It's another way the body's telling us.
Yeah.
Sign.
A healthy body has a healthy vagina. If you have a vagina.
Yes. Okay, Relly. Okay, here goes. My sex life is great, more than great. And believe me, I know that it is more than great. She brags about it. Laurie and Rel brag about it all the time.
As is her right.
Yeah, like when I go over, it's like, who even got clothes on. I'm 67 and my period stopped at 49. I don't have any dryness and I started lightly bleeding today. Is this because the lining of my uterus has built up too much? Funny you see ladies funny that you ladies are talking about vaginas tonight. Yeah, what do you think? Anything about that?
Sorry, Moira, I would say I would be investigating that.
Yes.
That's not a normal stock standard response that should happen out of the blue. I mean, it might be completely fine and transient, but I would definitely be investigating that. Yeah.
So the purple, green and yellow spotted elephant in the room can relate this, and I am going to say it, can relate this back to the jab that people are getting. So, and being around the spike proteins and that type of thing. So we are seeing it a lot. We have seen, as practitioners, we've seen women, in their 70s start bleeding again since this has been brought in. So you girls don't need to comment about it if you don't want to, but we are seeing so much changes in, like my period changed as soon as I put POP into care and being around that environment, and it's happening to so many people. My staff, our periods have gone haywire since this whole thing began. So that might have something to do with it. I'm not saying that that's the only thing, but that might have something to do with it too. Cool. All right. Lee said, goodbye, femme fresh.
Good.
I want to say hello, healthy vagina.
Yes, goodbye, femme fresh. Hello, healthy vagina.
Reacquaint yourself with what's healthy.
Yeah, and educating your kids can be quite hard if you don't know much about it yourself.
And that can be one of the problems. And I'm really lucky. My mother's a naturopath, so we've been having these conversations since I can remember. It was part and parcel of being raised. I was taught all about my health, my body, what a healthy vagina looks and feels like. And it was part of just empowering us as we grew up. And I think it's something that's really been lost. So I knew what a healthy period looked like. I knew, so if something went wrong, I knew really early. And it was always a very common discussion to have in our family. And so it should be again.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, definitely.
My poor husband gets lectured on this all of the time.
Poor Patty.
Yeah.
Oh, no, not poor Patty.
But it should be.
Yeah.
We should start the conversation.
Yeah, let's do that. Like, how do we, how do we even bring it up? Is there an age that's best, or it should just be normal, shouldn't it, from day one? But if it hasn't been normal, is there a way to bring it up?
It's not always an easy discussion for a lot of people to bring up. However, my opinion is to have a healthy relationship, we should be able to talk about our bodies and the health of our bodies. I'd say bite the bullet and say it.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome. Okay.
But you need to be talking about these things with your partner, especially if, you're concerned about something, very much so. They might add some light into it. So I often have the ladies bring in their husbands, and they'll go, well, actually, he can tell you more about it than I can. I'm like, great.
Yeah. Yes. And what we think's going on in our head, what we're embarrassed about, or think is like most of the time it's just a story, and then you talk to the husband like, what are you even on about? I'm not worried about this or that, and you know what you're worried about, how you're presenting, you know, yourself. And yeah, so a lot of women will make a big mountain out of something that shouldn't be.
There should be nothing embarrassing about intimate health.
Yeah. Okay.
Regardless of sexual orientation, age, anything. If you've got a vagina, and you should be able to talk about it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Like we are.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, next question. Hysterectomy. No more cycle to reset. Do I need to do anything to keep refreshing pH, etc.?
Depends on the type of hysterectomy. So if there's still ovaries and they're still hormonally producing hormones, then they may be maintaining, those hormones would still be influencing the vaginal health in a positive way, in that they may be supporting microbes, and those microbes support pH. But even outside of that, I mean, not everybody who menopauses ends up with a vagina that's unhealthy. Like there's still a percentage of the population that breeze through, never have an issue, never have painful intercourse, never experience dryness, don't even know what you're talking about. And then there's a larger group than you actually might be aware of that do experience these problems. And so the best place to start is actually to just measure your pH. Like, is your pH out? If it's not out, don't even focus in on it. Because I think one of the things I see with people is when you have a vaginal health issue, you micro focus on it. Like it's, you know, same with people with IBS, you know, it's all encompassing. Every day, every minute you're checking in, what's going on? Oh my gosh, what was that gush? What's that discharge? Can people smell me? Like there's a whole range of different things that go on. And really, if you don't have to worry about it, gosh, the best thing is just to stop worrying about it and just be it. And so, you know, you can just check in your pH. If your pH is fine, there's nothing you need to do at all.
She's still got ovaries. She's still got her ovaries.
She might be doing completely fine, particularly if she's not got any symptoms to worry that she's concerned about. If discharge, you know, there probably wouldn't be discharge, but if lubrication is okay, or you know, and intercourse isn't painful, or is, you know, okay for her, those sort of things are good measures, and there's no odor or anything like that, or there's no splitting or tearing or discomfort, then they're good measures that things are okay. But simple pH test is a very easy thing. I normally have a whole pack on my desk, but I don't today. A very easy thing to check in with a pH strip, and if everything's good, then it's good. And the other thing about pH testing is one reading is not everything. Like you can track a few and see, and it might be one aberrant reading, and then you're back in range again, and it's all good to go. And over the course of the month, you'll see fluctuations because microbes change over the course of a month, as hormones do as well.
So the difference then would with somebody who has had a hysterectomy and their ovaries taken as well?
So if the ovaries have been taken, then you shut down on estrogen production really suddenly. And again, it may take a little while if there are going to be symptoms in terms of vaginal health or any sort of, you know, those menopausal, traditional menopausal symptoms. It may take a while for those to show themselves. But in my experience, complete hysterectomies tend to, you know, because it's so sudden, we see issues much quicker. Because at other times I've seen people who have menopause and then they don't actually start experiencing issues maybe 10, 15 years into their menopause when things start to get quite bad for them. And then the opposite of that is I see people much, you know, prior to their menopause, where we see this perimenopause, you know, essentially start as we approach 40. If you're in your 40s, you're in your perimenopause, regardless of whether you're feeling it or not. But the vagina is a bit like the canary in the mine, in that it starts to show symptoms well before other parts of your body might, in terms of perimenopause, menopause, in my experience. So, you know, we might see that there'll be dryness or tearing or discomfort that occurs only at particular points of the month, or symptoms that come and go, and those things are worth also checking in on. So it's about, you know, where the estrogen is essentially. So if it's been cut off really quickly with a complete hysterectomy, then sometimes the symptoms are more severe because there's no, you know, none of that gradual decline or fluctuations and things kicking in and out of gear like it does in a natural menopause cycle.
Yes.
But also the actual operation itself and the utensils that are used and put into the vagina, that can change the microbiome in itself.
Yes.
You don't even think about that. Yeah. Okay, next question. I know we've got to get through them. Regina, which is the best lubricant you would suggest for a menopausal woman?
Fennel oil.
And I mean, fennel oil is fantastic, but it also depends on the type of sex you're having as well. So yeah, and if you are using a Barry method, which, you know, just because you lost the ability to have children doesn't mean you should stop having safe sex. If you're having casual sexual encounters, in that case, then you need to choose a water-based lubricant. And so we've got the Yes brand is probably the one that's the most available in Australia and is very pH and vagina friendly, and that will be selling through V4Me as well. So that's compatible with barrier methods, both female and male barrier methods. So that would be that choice there. Otherwise, you can use oil-based lubricants, and the fennel oil is really lovely in that menopausal space as well.
Cool. Next one, fasting causing menstrual cycle to go out of whack. Is this normal and okay?
You want me to do it?
I'll answer that one. So Moira and I might have a very different opinion on that. Sometimes when we're doing fasting or anything that detoxifies, so if we remember that fat is some of our ultimate reserve tank, sometimes if we're liberating fat for calories and detoxifying, it can put excess or different hormones back into our bloodstream again. So whenever we do any of those protocols, it isn't uncommon. So fasting, liberating fat from calories, it can disrupt hormones, such as doing the HCG diet. Those sort of things can occur. So I'm not sure your opinion on that, Moira, but that's mine.
Yeah, I think it's also whether those things occur and continue to occur is probably the thing, because we run into that, you know, when we've got quite extreme fasting or carbohydrate restriction and things like that, where we have what they call hypothalamic amenorrhea, where essentially periods stop or they disappear because you don't have the reserves on an energy level essentially to ovulate. So this is a carbohydrate equation a lot of the time, and you need to hit a certain amount. So it's a bit like when we see sometimes people just need to eat a little bit more and their cycles come back as well. So it's about finding that middle ground for you as well, particularly if it's an ongoing thing or your cycles become really irregular since you've done this one thing or you've started to eat a specific way and it's not come back and regulated itself.
And ladies, if you are interested in doing the HCG diet, Tia and I both do that. We will run you through, we've both written books, a protocol on the HCG diet. Great time to do it now leading up to Christmas. If you do want to drop, you know, most people lose between 6 and 10 kilos in the 21 to 40 days, but please get in touch with us if you want to have some more information about that. We do it a bit differently. We do make sure that your liver and everything is all working properly first. Yeah, we hold your hand through that process. So if you're interested in that, just type in HCG and my team will get back to you. Okay, thank you for all of your answers. Yep, you're spot on. Thinking it might be thrush or crotch itch, and then cleaning with FemFresh, usually when my Lycra gym clothes, long periods of time, the day before exercising. So thank you for all of the answers. Thank you for sharing. Belle, my periods have also gone haywire since earlier this year. So then all the girls have written how all their periods have gone haywire. Yeah, so Relly, so getting back to Relly, she's the lady who said that she started spotting today after, and she's 67, are you 67, Relly? So is there a certain test, or should she just see if it goes away today, or should she head to the doctor and ask for some testing?
If she wanted to reach out to us, I can point her in some good directions on those ones, because it is just so individual. I'd really need a little bit more information. It would probably be worth getting a swab done to see what her vaginal microbiome is doing, see where the bleeding is actually coming from. I think that would be an important thing to investigate.
So Relly, Tia Tia Relly's in our Body Wisdom group. So yeah, just Rel, just message Tia in Body Wisdom and you two can have a chat, okay? What is the role of VagiFem and what are the alternatives? I find there is a stench with it. VagiFem, I don't know. Do you girls know what that is?
I don't know which one's VagiFem is either. I'm assuming it's one of the...
VAGIF.
Bear with me. It's an estradiol.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
With your vaginal estrogens, topical estrogens have come a long way. And they can play a very important role in vaginal health when other things are not working particularly. And I think above all, when it comes to intimate health, comfort is really important. Like, don't suffer when there are things available that can help. So, and you know, lots of people would disagree with me on that, but in terms of my research into topical estrogens, they're quite safe for the majority of people that use them. But they can be definitely cause issues for some people as well. So when we start introducing estrogen into an area, you can disrupt things and it can feed and fuel candida-based microbes. And the creams or the bases that they come in may also not be compatible with your body as well. So you need to think about those sort of things. And there are so many different types now of topical estrogens available. Sometimes you just need to trial other ones if you're finding that there is an odor or a discomfort. But if it is an odor or a discomfort and you think it's associated with an infection, then that needs to be investigated and dealt with. And generally the recommendations are that you stop topical hormones whilst you deal with the issue and then you reintroduce them again later. So yeah, but again, it would be more information on what you mean by odor at that point. I mean, some of these things are fragranced and in slightly as well.
It's more of an odor. She used stench. She's gone to the stench level.
I often find...
Sorry, Tia. Yeah.
No, that's okay. I often find that sometimes your estrogen pessaries and creams were given without proper investigation. So there was just an assumption that it was low estrogen. I often find that maybe a DHEA pessary may be more indicated than estrogen. So I'd want to be knowing why estrogen cream was selected, but also sometimes is it the original stench that happens, or perhaps there's some bacteria getting back into the cream. But if it's the pessary, then I'd say that it's probably not the right one for her.
Okay. We'll keep on going through. I took a round of antibiotics recently, which I don't usually take. I ended up with thrush. I took one tablet from the chemist to clear it up, and then symptoms have gone itching, tummy bloat, etc. I've been taking probiotics since. How do I really know my vagina is back in balance and the tablet hasn't just masked the symptoms?
Test.
Yeah.
By the pH test.
Yeah, pH is a good way to check in, I guess. And it also depends. I mean, if everything is feeling good, then chances are everything is good. I mean, a once-off, 75% of people with a vagina will have a thrush infection in their lifetime. Only around about 10% of those go on to have a recurrent issue with it. So most of the time, it's easily dealt with. And in Australia, where we have over-the-counter therapies available for thrush, that's how most people will deal with it, and then it doesn't become a problem. But then there's obviously that very small percentage of people where it can become a problem. But it sounds like you've done the right things in terms of taking a probiotic, which can help replenish because it was post-antibiotics. But if you're feeling like things are still itching or bloating, those are things that need to be addressed and considered as well. So yeah, I would, start off with something simple like pH testing. If you are super concerned, then go and get a swab, whether that's a microbiome panel or you're going to your GP and getting that done and having that investigated as well. And then you can work with what the results say. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to go down the path of more pharmaceuticals if you don't want to, because there's lots of options available in the world of how we can support and address these things more naturally as well.
In clinic, personally, what I will do is I'll make sure, yes, it's one thing to kill the thrush. The Candida could only grow in a microbiome that's probably not as robust as it should be. So the vagina should be high in lactobacillus strains. So using lactulose pessaries after antibiotics just to regrow your good bacteria can be a good place to start. Something simple, easy, cost-effective, and it's essentially feeding your vagina.
And you're going to teach all about that on V for Me.
We'll have this available within the next 2 weeks.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Does Yoni steaming actually help? Is it Yoni? Yoni?
I've been asked this question many, many times, and I think that my personal opinion, and there are varied opinions on Yoni steaming, is that I don't think it does all of the things it claims to do, but I also know how good a hot application can feel when you put it on your crotch. And the benefits of bringing blood supply and heat to that area, particularly if there's congestion or you have cramping or any of those things, can be really beneficial. When we look at steam penetration into the vaginal canal, it's quite minimal. So medicated herbs and things like that, I don't think, if you've got a really recurrent infection, in my experience, it's not going to resolve that, but it can be part of a self-care ritual around that and connection, which is really lovely as well, for people to get to know their body and to have some practices where they are quiet and they know that they're working on something. So using that in combination with other interventions is a really nice way to look after yourself. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of quite huge claims around Yoni steaming, and not necessarily, and coming from a science background, not necessarily the evidence to back up a lot of those things, but certainly blood supply and heat, and it's just like you would use a heat pack, is a really lovely thing to do.
But even like when you're like girlfriends, and normally it's like, oh yes, I had a facial, I had a massage, oh I had a Yoni steam done today. Like, what a way to start a conversation that would be.
Yeah, definitely. There's Yoni steaming spas all around the world. You just go and sit on a stool and
yeah.
get your Yoni steamed.
I just imagine then where you go and put your feet in, and the fish all each sit on a stool and then get your feet eaten by little fish, Oh wow. Okay. Oral contraceptives, progesterone only tablets, can this cause your estrogen levels to go out of whack long term?
Yes. So I mean, the whole role of a progesterone only contraceptive is progesterone only, and so that suppresses and your fertility rhythm essentially, and changes the mucus around the cervix. Like, we end up with a cervical plug of mucus, so it changes conception ability at that level as well. Clinically, I do see people that are on progesterone only medication have more tendencies to things like bacterial vaginosis, which is an imbalance of the bacteria. So this is the presentation with a little bit of a fishy odor, discharge that can be milky, grey and gushy, and an elevated pH as well. So that can happen with progesterone only, because the estrogen is the big driver of the health of the microbial colonies in this space. So it definitely can. And then sometimes as well, with mini pills or the progesterone only pills, the frequency that you take it, and if you miss it and you might bleed more frequently, those sort of things can also disrupt and change microbial colonies as well. So there's a few factors, but again, there's always a percentage of people where it's not an issue. There just seems to be people that have tendencies to imbalance, and then there's always the person that goes, oh, that doesn't happen to me. And I think that people hear those people and they don't hear the other people that need to talk about it. But it is something to consider if you're having issues, that progesterone only contraceptives may not be the best choice for you.
Cool, thank you. And people have just been writing great answers. Thank you so much. Oh, and then 5 million people have written HCG, 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 HCG. And then Belinda's told Tia to mute because she's echoey again. Right. So we All right, so yeah, we're coming up tonight to finishing off now. One of the things that we do in clinic at the moment is our Good Gut Challenge, where we use the VitaCleanse and the fiber to do a good gut cleanse, because pH and, you know, having the right bacteria, gut, body, like, we don't realize how much bacteria we have all over our skin, all the way through, like, everywhere. We've got more bacteria in us than human cells or something, like, and the only time you become more human is after you go to the toilet and do a big poo, and then you jump more onto the human side. So it's amazing how much bacteria, like, is there. Okay, so let's go. So thank you, ladies. What's the name of the vaginal pessary again?
If they jump onto the bforme.com.au website, within about 2 weeks, we'll have all of that information up there for them.
Okay, so the action steps.
That's an email, then I'll be able to help them.
And send you an email, did you say?
Yep, through V4Me.
Through V4Me, yes. Okay, so V4Me, it's VEE. Is it a 4? FORME. Okay, V for me. .com.au. Great. Okay, so there's a page on there that they can ladies can register. Oh, look, Eunice has popped the link in. And then we've got your Instagram page, the V4Me Instagram as well, which I'm sure we're going to have some awesome pictures on there that we can all share. And then on the Facebook group too. Okay, yeah, so all of that. But just, if we can ask, one thing from the ladies watching tonight, it's, I think, share this information, have the discussion, because when you talk about something, it then, you take it in more when you teach it, when you talk about it. But just educating one person, because that person might be sitting back struggling and would prefer to be on the sidelines and just listen quietly. You never know who you're going to help just by having a conversation, right? And that's what we do. That's why we do BooB CamP. Like, these nights that I do is just teaching lymphatic health to as many women who want to show up, who want to make a change. And then you girls are doing exactly the same thing, like making this site, making it available for women to have these conversations in a safe, nurturing, fun environment, and then to set up your website and to set up places where who knows what's going to, I'm so excited for you girls, like we don't know what's going to come from this. Like, we could be having retreats and vagina retreats, we
wanted to create a place that was not just about a woman, it's literally about a vagina. So this has got not to do what you associate, who you think you are. This is literally, if you have a vagina, we're for you.
Yeah.
This is a safe place.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So once again, thank you so much, girls, for joining in. Now, if anybody else wants, yay, thanks, and try to Google your site with no luck. So that's why we've popped the link in there. Big vag energy in here tonight. Love it. So that's cool. Now, everybody, if you want to join Tia and I for the day on Monday, you still can. Tia and I are doing our LymFATics Alive workshop. We are live in Brisbane, but we do have the camera following us around, and we do live stream through Zoom. So you do get to participate, and you can stay in the room with us all day. And same as these conversations, we do go off track. and we do get into some nitty gritties, but it is all relevant to health, mainly around lymphatic health, but we do talk about a lot of general information as well. So if you would like to join us for the whole day, Tia and I are doing 50% off. We're doing a special to those people who are not practitioners, because practitioners then get the extra time afterwards with me one-on-one talking about business building, and then the one-on-one with Tia afterwards to talk about how to incorporate supplements and products and sign up with Araya Health, and how to build their business that way too. So yeah, come along on Monday. Eunice will pop the link in. So it's half price for the whole day. So whatever 350 is, half of that is at 175. Yeah, 175 for the whole day. You can join us in our LAW on Monday. Cool. Have booked already there. Carol has booked too. Love changing lives with you girls. Look at us. Can you do that again? And I'll get Eunice. Eunice, can you take a screenshot? And, we will use this. How cool is this? Right? Okay, so everybody has written great session tonight. Thank you all. Great night. Yeah. So thank you, ladies, once again. And seriously, can I invite you? Can we do this again at the start of next year once you've got everything up and running, and then we can introduce where you're at and keep the ladies in BooB CamP up to date? Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Love to all. Love you, everybody in BooB CamP. Thank you for a great 3 nights. We will have our last BooB CamP next month in December. If you want to join Body Wisdom's going for 12 weeks instead of 8 weeks this round. We start at the end of November. Of course, all Body Wisdom ladies get to consult with the beautiful, amazing Tia Brennan. You get to take your bloods to Tia, and now that she's, you'll just all be talking to her about vaginas now instead of your bloods.
You can send me a pH for your vagina.
Yeah. So you can join us for our last Body Wisdom of the year too. All right. Good night.